Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. Through you, Madam Mayor, I will be presenting York Region's capital projects update for our works in town of East Gwillimbury. My name is Claude Michelli. I'm a senior project manager with Environmental Services. With me presenting today will be Brian Wolf. He's also a senior project manager in Environmental Services, as well as Mark Nicoluk, who is a senior project manager with Transportation Services.
Just before you get started, I just want to say that we have a lot of projects going on throughout East Gwillimbury. We are well aware of them all. We have lots of discussion in the council chamber about them, and we're really happy that you are here today to bring us up to speed on what's going on. I know that the second concession project is the largest project that the region has ever undertaken, along with transportation and works, etc. And I just wanted to emphasize that's why we have the cameras here today, so we can share this presentation with our residents as well. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
The agenda for the presentation, I will be starting off with providing the update for the Queensville, Holland Landing, Sharon wastewater servicing project, which includes 3 new pumping stations and linear works. Brian Wolf will then provide an update for the Upper York Sanitary Solutions project, and Mark Nicoluk will talk about the second concession road improvements project. Just as a quick recap, this is a map of basically the works that are happening, the environmental services works that are happening in the town of East Gwillimbury. We have 3 new pumping stations. The new Holland Landing pumping station located here.
Excuse me, could you just speak a little closer into the mic, or maybe we could turn the mic up? We want to make sure that everybody can hear. Sure. It's important information.
We have the new Holland Landing pumping station on Bathurst Street, a new pumping station on second concession just south of Queensville Side Road, we call the Queensville West pumping station, and another one on second concession just in Rogers Reservoir area, the second concession pumping station. In the interim, in the future, we will be building the proposed water reclamation center. In the interim, we're going to be conveying all the sewage that will be collected at these pumping stations, as well as along second concession and along the Sharon trunk sewer to the second pumping station, south to the Newmarket, the existing Newmarket pumping station, which will eventually pump the sewage to the UYSS. In the future, once the water reclamation center is built, the system has been designed to then pump all the sewage north to the water reclamation center. So that's a brief description of the works that are going on. The top picture is the current picture of the Queensville West sewage pumping station. The pumping station has been, all the superstructure has been built, and the contractor will be starting testing of the equipment and commissioning this month. Below that is the Holland Landing sewage pumping station. It's a similar state with the testing and the commissioning to start this month as well. Above we have the second concession sewage pumping station. It's a little bit behind the other ones. We're looking to start the testing of the equipment and commissioning probably near the end of October for that one. And the essential linear works are anticipated. These are the linear works that are required for to convey the sewage south to the Newmarket pumping station, and that is anticipated to be completed by the end of this year. Works in Holland Landing. There was lots of works in Holland Landing this past summer. We had Bathurst Street closed, but it was opened for the Labor Day long weekend. The majority of the works in Holland Landing include twin force mains, and the installation of these twin force mains has been completed. What's remaining to do is just testing the pipe, and that will be starting next week. Installation of the West Holland trunk sewer is also complete. That involved micro-tunneling the sewer from Holland Landing Road to Toll Road and then into the pumping station site. That required going underneath the tracks and also going underneath the Holland River. temporary road restoration in the area of Bradford Street and Yonge Street has been completed. Once the testing of the force main is done and there's no issues, then the contractor will then start the final restoration of the roads and the area. And that's scheduled to happen in October next month. Bradford Street, we encountered some issues in Bradford Street, as you probably all know, which required us to close Bathurst Street for most of this, all the summer. We have completed the installation of the twin force mains along Bradford Street, and this is the current photo, so we've restored the curb and gutter that was damaged through all that work, and the road has been restored to base course. And come next month, we'll provide, the contractor will place the top course there as well. The asphalt sidewalk you see here, it's just in front of the new pumping station site. There needs to be one final connection once the testing is complete to connect the twin force mains to the piping in the site of the Holland Landing pumping station. And once that is complete, then that area of sidewalk will also be restored with concrete. The picture on the right is the Bradford-Yonge Street intersection. That's the current photo. There was issues with work there as well, but that was all completed the week after the long weekend, and the road has been restored to temporary asphalt. Once the testing of the twin force mains is complete, then the contractor will come through and restore the road to final asphalt and also curb and sidewalk. Remaining works along Green Lane. We have some micro tunneling of 2 casings for twin force mains along Green Lane, as well as a water main pipe. And these twin casings will go underneath the rail corridor as well as the Holland Landing River. Horizontal direction drilling for twin force mains under Green Lane is scheduled for October, to be completed in October. They're actually going to start doing the horizontal directional drilling this week and hopefully completed by the end of next week. There is a new diversion maintenance hole at the intersection of Green Lane, or just west of the intersection of Green Lane and Second Concession. They will start doing that work this weekend and will be completed the following weekend. Also, area and road restoration in that within that intersection area and along Green Lane will be completed next month. This is a picture of the area along Green Lane where they're doing the micro-tunneling. We have 2 shafts that will be micro-tunneled. They're identified in the red lines. 2 tunnels. There's a shaft on either side, one west of the tracks, and the other one is east of the river, these 2 tunnels will connect the 2, and then one tunnel will hold the new water main, and the other tunnel will hold the twin force mains. Sharon trunk sewer, it's hard to see in this picture, but the red line through Rogers Reservoir represents the Sharon trunk sewer. The region's portion of the sewer is complete. The pipe is in the ground. The manholes, maintenance holes have all been completed. And the only thing that's remaining, the only work that's remaining is the developer portion, which they've started last week, and they should be completed within the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is an open cut section along their north-south road, just south of Mount Albert Road, which is not on this picture. Here we have, you can see the access roads that go into Rogers Reservoir, one along the north and one coming in from the east. We've got permission from LCRCA to install a pedestrian bridge over the creek to connect those 2 access roads. So in the future there will be a fixed link between the community of Sharon and the Nikita Trail. So overall, we're looking at to have the pumping stations and the essential linear works completed and in service by the end of this year. The initial capacity of the 3 pumping stations can handle the interim servicing of plus or minus 7,000 new homes until the Water Reclamation Center is completed. To accommodate the flows going north, additional pumps and slight modifications to all the pumping stations will be required to handle the ultimate capacity. And this work will happen, will be completed with the project for the Water Reclamation Center. And that's it regarding the Queensville West wastewater service, Queensville Holland Landing Sharon wastewater servicing project. If you want, I can answer questions now, or we can continue on with the presentation.
I think if we could ask questions now and then move on to the next phase while it's still fresh in everyone's mind.
Sure.
Questions on the first portion? Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wonder, Mr. Michelli, if you could go back to the Sharon Trunk Sewer map. And you mentioned a new pedestrian bridge that you had Conservation Authority to install. Can you show me where that is on the map, please?
The creek, I do believe, runs in this area here. So the majority of the Sharon Trunk Sewer was microtunneled, so there was no open excavations. So we stayed away from the creek during the installation of the pipes. One shaft, there's a shaft here and a shaft at this location, and the pipe was tunneled underneath the creek. So the new pedestrian bridge will go over this creek here.
And so that will tie in with existing trail infrastructure that's being put in place along there, or?
Yeah. So the whole path through the hydro corridor will have an access road, which will be used as a trail that will come down from the Sharon community into Rogers Reservoir across the creek, and it'll follow along through here. And I do believe there's a pedestrian bridge also that'll be crossing the river here, and underneath the existing vehicle bridge, which will then connect it to the Nikita Trail.
Okay, thank you. If I may, I have another one. If you could go back 2 slides to the remaining works along Green Lane. You mentioned that there is a diversion maintenance hole at Green Lane and Second Concession that's scheduled for this weekend. I'm just wondering if you can tell us what a diversion maintenance hole is and what residents can expect this weekend as far as works. I know that there is a sign up now, an electronic sign saying that to expect delays, but what's happening at that intersection this weekend?
Unfortunately, it's not on this slide. It's west of this location. We have a sewer along Green Lane that right now, that once it hits the intersection at Second Concession, it runs south and then follows I think the border of the East Gwillimbury Newmarket border underneath the river and then into our Newmarket pumping station site. It's not ideal as far as infrastructure goes because to get it to that location, it actually arrives at the pumping station lower than the actual wet well at the pumping station. So we have a small pumping station at the location to then pump it up into the wet well for the Newmarket pumping station.
So a lift chamber.
So we're building a new manhole at just west of the intersection of Green Lane and Second Concession, and it'll divert the sewage north to the Second Con pumping station up along Second Concession. It'll fall through gravity up down to the pumping station, and then pumped south again to the Newmarket pumping station in the interim, and then ultimately it will go north with once the WRC is built. This is basically to not have to use that small little pumping station because it would not be able to handle future flows coming along Green Lane. So we have to build a manhole there on top of the existing sewer, connect it to the new sewer that's been installed going north, and then eventually install valves to be able to direct the sewage either going north or going south.
And so this weekend, what sorts of lane closures, outright closure?
There will be lane closures. The contractor, we met with him this morning. His plan is to, Friday evening, is to bring the pipe that's on, they just installed at the northeast section of the intersection across the westbound lanes to the middle of the Green Lane where we're going to build that intersection diversion manhole. And then on Saturday, they're going to dig the excavation for that manhole. And then on Sunday, they're going to pour a concrete slab for the base of that maintenance hole. And then all next week, there will be a lane closure, an eastbound lane closure at that location because we have to wait for this poured in place concrete slab to cure. And then the following weekend, the precast maintenance hole will then be installed in the excavation. So by the end of the following weekend, all lanes will be restored. But so the westbound lanes, there'll still be 2 through lanes, but the eastbound lanes will be reduced to one through lane at that intersection.
So right now, westbound is at that intersection is technically 3 lanes. One
Yes.
is currently closed. Those 2 that are there now will remain. And the turn lanes to go south
Yes, that
on
will-
Main/Second Con will remain open. So
Yes.
it's one eastbound lane that will be closed for essentially what time on Friday?
I think Friday evening. I'm not. He didn't say exactly when he was going to start, but probably definitely after rush hour, that will happen. And because we have to leave the excavation open for the slab to cure. It'll be a 24/7 lane closure for basically the whole week.
That's it for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank the region for responding so quickly when you received the call with regard to the pedestrian lane on Yonge Street between Bradford and the post office. Residents were very pleased when the road opened up over Labor Day weekend, but those who walk couldn't get through the intersection. Yes. And in fact, they could because they were using the paved portion that you had just repaired. So it was really good that you got in there and restore the pedestrian lane for them as quickly as you did. I think the main problem that was occurring with residents over the summer, at least that I faced, was that they didn't know what was happening there and they couldn't see any work taking place. And perhaps you were waiting for parts or you were waiting for things of that sort. So just in future, if you have a story to tell, if there is a reason and it's a story to tell, people are really interested in hearing that kind of thing and would like to have known during the summer what the delay was caused from.
There were the 2 delays on Bradford Street. We encountered some buried infrastructure, and we had to stop work for a number of weeks to determine how we're going to proceed to be able to install our infrastructure with this obstacle in the way. Along Yonge Street, we had an issue with gasoline contamination of water and soil. Again, we had to stop work until we determined how we're going to proceed in that manner as well. So, but as you said, in the future, probably try to provide more notice to the residents of why there's been delays in the works.
Just a further question, Madam Mayor, and where you did have to stop on Yonge Street due to the gasoline that was found, people did seem to know about that. That word spread quite well. Mm-hmm. So what was the resolve to that? So that residents have the story straight, or we have the story straight, is what did you do about that? Did you remove soil? Did you find that it wasn't an issue? Could you just tell us a little more about that?
Sure. We had to report it to the MOE, and because it was an existing condition, we just had to, on our part, mitigate that we didn't make it worse. So what we came up with is all the soil below a certain grade, all the water and all the soil that below a certain grade was removed from site and disposed of at a certified facility to take that material. And then all the new material was brought in, and we installed, we call them trench plugs, within our excavation to ensure that none of the water that's contaminated actually migrates along our trench. So to keep it in place as much as possible.
Other questions? Councillor Young?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question, and with the extension of the UYSS, how many pipes, sewage pipes, water pipes, have been put in the ground?
The majority of the linear works has been installed to date. I think the contractor is working on the north end of the project, just south of Queensville Side Road. Mm-hmm. I do believe that's the mainly what's left to do on that project. The rest of it, besides the microtunneling work here and crossing of Green Lane, the rest of the pipe work is installed.
Okay, maybe, I'm sorry, I don't think I was clear. Physically, the number of pipes And I think I've understand from before that it's not just pipes that have gone in for the YDSS. Have we also included pipes to eventually service the UYSS?
Yes, so
And there could be a number of pipes in different lengths or different areas. Like I understand there might not be as many, coming from the pumping station heading to Newmarket as there is once you get to the pumping station at Rogers Reservoir heading north, or there could be. I don't know, I'm just curious.
we have, to go, for the ultimate solution to go to the Water Reclamation Center, we have two large force mains, twin force mains, running from the second pumping station at Rogers Reservoir all the way to just south of Queensville Side Road. That will eventually be built up to the Water Reclamation Center. We have other twin force mains along Second Concession that will connect the Water Reclamation Center to the Newmarket pumping station.
Okay.
There's a gravity sewer along Second Concession that starts just north of Doane Road and flows all the way down to the Second Concession pumping station at Rogers Reservoir. We have the Sharon trunk sewer that runs from Leslie just north of Mount Albert Road along the hydro corridor and through Rogers Reservoir. And we've also installed, obviously, the twin force mains in Holland Landing that go from the pumping station on Bradford Street along Bradford up Yonge, along Parkside, then through LSRCA easement, through our lagoon lands all the way out to Second Concession. And there's also, we've installed water main along Second Concession from Green Lane all the way up to just south of Queensville Side Road.
Okay.
And then there's the Green Lane sewer diversion, which runs from Green Lane north along Second Concession to the Second Concession pumping station.
Okay. And then maybe if you could just explain to me again the way the connections work from the Second Concession pumping station down to the Newmarket pumping station.
We have twin force mains running south on Second Concession from the pumping station to Green Lane. Then it goes east along Green Lane, underneath the tracks and underneath the river. And then just east of the river, there's the hydro corridor. It runs along the hydro corridor, south through the Newmarket fields, soccer fields, into our Newmarket pumping station site.
So those two force mains, I'm sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, are they both just related to YDSS, or are they related to the extension of the YDS and the future of the UYSS?
In the interim, they're related to bringing the sewage down to Newmarket pumping station and into the YDSS. In the future, they are used to convey reject water from the Water Reclamation Center to the Newmarket pumping station.
Okay, so they will work both ways.
Both ways, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's great for now. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I just had a couple. One, you had referenced the site for the UYSS, and I didn't know whether it was actually affirmed that that was the site, or is that the preferred site that you're referring to?
Actually, Brian Wolf could, that's going to be part of his presentation.
Is Brian going to be up later that we can?
Right after.
I'll
right
ask
after
you
I'm
then.
done.
The other question that I had is regarding the Sharon trunk sewer, and following up on Councillor Roy DiClemente's question about that routing. The trail system, is that the responsibility of the region, the town, or the developer to include that, to bring it over to the Second Concession and ultimately tie it up to the Nikita Trail system?
Ultimately, we're still looking at probably getting together and putting together an agreement between ourselves, East Gwillimbury, and LSRCA regarding who's going to maintain the trail, own the trail. Obviously, LSRCA owns the land. We're building it under our contract, and so we still have to discuss those issues regarding the trail. But the access road is basically large enough. Hydro has requested that it be large enough for their trucks to be able to access their infrastructure. So it is definitely oversized for just a trail, but it's definitely going to be intended to be used as a trail for the residents to use to connect to the Nikita Trail.
It's a perfect opportunity to have a trail system to connect one more of our communities together, and it makes perfect sense, and to do it as a partnership, I think that's probably the best way of going. So I know that residents are looking forward to being able to come out the door here and end up down at the GO station or even further down to Aurora. So I guess at this point, no timing, still working on it.
The pedestrian trail, our pedestrian bridge is looking to be installed this fall, and the trail we're looking to get it be completed by the end of this year if possible. We're definitely going to push to get that done.
Thank you.
One other thing I'd just like to add, along Second Concession, we did, for the water main along Second Concession, we did bring in service a portion of our Second Concession water main about 200 meters north of Mount Albert Road to service the new French school, to bring that online. The rest of the water main is only going to be brought online when required through development happening in the area.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of council, Mr. Webster, senior management, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm jumping ahead of Brian Wolf just to speak to the Second Concession project, as I've unfortunately got another appointment I got to scoot away at. Oh, there we are. As council is aware, the project began with the EA in 2009. The project was tendered in 2013, and it was the largest transportation project that the region has tendered at $94 million, and we're quite proud of that. We're halfway through the project, although only the road was closed in September of 26th of last year, so the contractor has made some great progress. We're more than halfway through, and if you have driven through the site, we have been paved from the south limit of Bristol Road, south of Green Lane, up to Rogers Road, and we will be paving from where we've just finished paving at the Region's site office north of Mount Albert. We'll be continuing that paving before the end of the year to Acon's site office just north of Valley Trail, which is just north of the Rogers Reservoir, and there's existing pavement there, so the people at Valley Trail will have pavement all the way up to Mount Albert, up to Doane, and at present, even the people at Algonquin Forest now have pavement down to Doane and east and west. The work that has been accomplished to date is a lot of the underground work, the base paving that I've mentioned, storm sewers, catch basins, grading. The Holland River Bridge has been demolished. The work on the Metrolinx Region Rail Bridge is well underway with the footings and the RSS walls. We do intend to complete that and have the Second Concession opened to through traffic by the end of the summer next year. We do plan on opening up the portion between Doane Road and Queensville Side Road by the end of October of this year. And we do intend on having all of the base course paved by the end of this year, with the exception of that piece around Rogers Road, Rogers Reservoir. And by the end of next year, our intention is to have the project complete, possibly top course paving in 2017, but our contractor is thinking we're pretty good for the end of next year. That's our hope. And just a very brief update.
94 million, just a brief update.
Just
Very
a brief
good.
update,
Very
yeah.
good. I think all of us have been watching it very carefully. I'm not sure. Are there any questions from members of committee? Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Mark, for your presentation. 94 million, are we looking like we're on budget? And the reason I ask, I know it's a regional budget, but I think everybody that lives in this community and in York Region pays for it.
Right.
In some respects, if it doesn't come through DCs, but where are we at?
Well, we're very pleased in that we scoped the project very tightly during detailed design so that we did have pre-qualified contractors, and a measure of the contract's tightness is how closely the contractors bid on the project. Our initial estimate of the work was $105 million, and the bids came in at $94 million, $95 million, $96 million. So we are $10 million under our estimate. At present, there have been a few extras to accommodate such things as the Ministry of the Environment required us to install some different sewer type work to ensure that this was met and that was met. So we'll be over the 94 million by a couple of $1 million, but we're under the construction estimate.
Okay. Further to that, Madam Mayor, maybe I should ask this question first. How much of this project is DCable and how much is tax levy?
90% is DC and 10% is tax levy.
Okay. So once it's done, then we just have to pay to look after it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Further to that, and I know you haven't, you mentioned, you touched on Doane Road briefly. Doane Road widening and potentially the off-ramp, the completion of the on-off ramp at the Doane Road interchange. Where does that sit right now within the regional's capital plan? And I'm asking you because I figured you're the guy that's probably the one that's designed it and going to build it.
Well, thank you, Councillor. My team was involved in completing the EA for Doane Road, and my team was also the team responsible for completing the environmental assessment for the Doane Road 404 interchange within, I believe it was 9 months before MTO was beginning their construction and required the EA to be completed. So we managed to get that EA done in record time for the interchange. And we had completed the EA on Doane Road. I do know that the Doane Road project is with another team at the region. And in terms of the implementation of it, for the interchange, we had worked very closely with town of East Gwillimbury staff and with MTO staff to use excess grading from the north portion of the 404 extension to actually pre-grade the ramps for the Doane Road, saving the taxpayers quite a bit of money on that. Everything is basically pre-graded for when we do the connection from the interchange to the highway. In terms of the timing for Doane Road, if I may, I'd kindly defer that to Paul Aqua, the manager of engineering. I think he's going to speak to a few other project related. I'm not sure if he wants to speak to that now.
Just very quickly, through you, Madam Mayor, the timing for that particular project currently sits in 2024 for start of construction, and that's the 2015 regional plan.
Okay, thank you. Further, if I may, going back to second concession, where the large brig structure is being built, I understand that the trail connection will be underneath the bridge.
That's correct.
So that nobody will have to worry about trying to get across that road.
Yes.
When is the potential for that to be open? Because I think right now we've got a big chunk of our trail program kind of held up, and understandably. But will that be 2016, or is there a possibility that we could get that opened up sooner?
I don't believe that realistically that will happen before the fall of 2016, just because of the bridge work. And once the bridge work's complete, there's going to be some landscaping work as well around that reservoir area. So we would respectfully ask and there is a burgeoning pent-up want for the use of that trail, and we do speak to some people about it, but we would be asking people to kindly hold off until the end of the fall of 2016.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Yes, Madam Chair, I just have I'll wrap up with a few brief slides on the status of the Upper York project. As you know, the IEA was filed back in mid last year. We've had a lot of back and forth with the ministry since that time. The latest one being just this past September the 3rd, we had a face-to-face meeting with staff downtown. We're cautiously optimistic that we will get the minister's review completed by the end of this year, which will allow the completion, the approval of the IEA, either with or without conditions, sometime next year, mid next year. I can assure you that the approval of the IEA is not on the critical path of this project, but having said that, if we go beyond Q2 of 2016, it might start to become critical. Now, this is just a reminder of the key elements of the project. Aside from the Water Reclamation Center, we are going to be doing modifications to the YDSS in Newmarket, as well as a phosphorus offsetting program throughout York Region in the Lake Simcoe watershed. We're going to be spending about $74 million on all three of those aspects this year, or rather in the next 4 years. Now, I wanted to give you a little bit of information on this aspect of the project. It does include 2 new force mains interconnecting the Newmarket, Bogart Creek, and Aurora pumping stations. It's going to provide additional system reliability and redundancy within the system. It is in our 10-year capital plan as part of the project, and is currently at the pre-design stage and will be commissioned and completed in Q4 2019. And that's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Questions on the York-Durham system? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Wolf, you've shown us a picture of the proposed site. Can you give us an update? Have you acquired this land? And where are you as far as you know, you're talking about you're looking for the EA to be approved, but what sorts of work is ongoing at this point?
We are into detailed design. The Water Reclamation Center is about 60% complete. The property acquisition is underway. We have done appraisals of the site, and we have pitched offers to the property owner. So we are in extensive negotiations right now. And as far as the YDSS mods are concerned, we're at about 30% detailed design right now. So the project is moving aggressively. We have our foot right to the pedal on all aspects of the project. And we have reported to our council that we are doing all this at risk with respect to the approval of the EA.
If I may, so you're at a 60% detailed design. Have you, you're still calling it a water reclamation center. Have you advanced anything further as far as actually finding a customer or a place to put the reclaimed water that you've talked about through the EA process? Because at this point, as far as I know, it's a really neat sewage treatment plant, but it's certainly not a water reclamation center unless something has changed in that process.
Through you, Madam Chair, it is a water reclamation center because it will be producing reclaimed water. Right now, we identified possible customers through the EA, and we haven't actually reached out to them because we don't have approval for the project as of yet. And we have, as part of the detailed design, we have completed a water reclamation plan that we can move forward with, but that's where we are right now.
Thank you. And slightly further, with respect to the detailed design, how involved has the proposed landowner been and our own staff been as far as future, that area I believe is white belt lands currently, and it may end up being developed in the future. How involved have those stakeholders been in that design process to ensure that this facility will blend in with what may be coming next for that area, and also to make sure that that educational and forward-thinking, those aspects of this project would be accessible to members of the public, so an education center, that sort of thing. How involved has the town and the landowner been in that design process?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Those are all very important aspects of this project, and we recognize that. And we have involved, the town has been key stakeholders. The area developer, the Green Earth Village, have been key stakeholders. So far, we have presented to the town staff our preliminary architectural renderings. We've also presented them to Green Earth Village. We're moving forward right now internally on the public education aspects to try to develop some sort of ideas to move forward with, but these are all critical aspects that we are moving forward with.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Any other questions? It seems to me that until the EA is approved, that there's a lot in the holding pattern, lots of ideas and lots of things that we're starting to work on, but just not sure what marching orders might be a part of that EA. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, yes and no. We have been, through the course of the EA, we've been dealing with the ministry for 6 years now. And our dealings with the ministry, my understanding, is unprecedented on any EA that we've ever worked on before. And they've recognized the uniqueness of this project, and they have been driving it internally as well. We have a really good understanding of what the conditions may be coming down the pipe, and we're moving forward aggressively on all aspects of the project, keeping in mind some of the things that we are expecting. As I said, the last meeting that we had was just a couple of weeks ago on September the 3rd to wrap up a couple of more technical details that were still sticking points, but we have a good idea through extensive communication over the past 6 years on what's going to be coming.
I think it's really important to the community, and I know it's important to the region as well, and this council, that the water be reused in some fashion, and to see something beyond just a regular system. And it seems to me that that's exactly what the plans are, is to reuse the water. Water is one of our most precious environmental entities, and we have to start using it, not abusing it, so to speak. But I think this is really important for everyone, is to make sure that it is reused, it's recycled, and finding those opportunities within our community. I think they're going to be there for us. I think people are stepping up already, so I'm pleased to hear that. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Mr. Wolf. The anticipated spending of $74 million over the next 4 years. Can you just walk through briefly again what that entails?
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair. The detailed design component was bid at $50 million. So it's an extensive design. We're moving aggressively to get to 60% design on the WRC. We've spent a lot of money right there. We are going to be going to construction that does include some construction for the YDSS mods. The YDSS mods components is in the order of 70 to $80 million, in that range.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money there, a lot of money to design it. The property acquisition is extensive. The land is not going to be cheap. So that's kind of where the money is.
And those modifications, are they within the town of East Gwillimbury, or are they the modifications I'm looking at that seem to be in the south part, going through Newmarket towards Aurora?
Physically, through you, Madam Chair, physically, all the work is in the town of Newmarket.
Okay.
But East Gwillimbury is going to be benefiting. They're going to be flowing through the sewage through there.
Absolutely. I understand that 100%. And I've heard this number of 72, 74 million thrown out. This is the second time I've seen on paper, but I heard that mentioned by the regional chair, and I was just trying to figure out where that number was coming from and where it was going. So really, the UYSS, it'll ultimately take all of our sewage, but it also is taking Newmarket, a portion of Newmarket's and Aurora's too. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's not taking anything from Aurora.
Okay.
A portion of Newmarket only.
Okay. So we stop at Newmarket, not north of Aurora. Then that's my mistake. I apologize for that. I thought I'd heard that before. Then just building on that, Madam Mayor, what is the capacity once we do get to the end of the day and the Water Reclamation Center has been built? How much capacity will it be taking from Newmarket? Quarter, third, all of it?
Yeah, you're testing my memory.
Yeah.
I would, don't hold me to this, but
Oh, no, I won't.
I believe the numbers are 100% from East Gwillimbury,
Yeah.
and it's about half of the growth in Newmarket.
At Newmarket today or Newmarket's build out?
The growth in Newmarket, like whatever is to be grown from.
Okay, so from this
forward.
point on.
From this point on, yeah.
And
half
everything
of that
else
growth.
and everything else Newmarket has right now will just continue on south.
And half of the growth will continue on
Okay.
south.
Okay. So really, this isn't just a piece of infrastructure that benefits the town of East Gwillimbury. It benefits the town of East Gwillimbury, it benefits the town of Newmarket, but when you look at the existing system and the capacity under the YDSS, we're also benefiting the entire region too. Because if we're not using that capacity on the YDSS, and who knows what could happen if this thing really works good, I'm sure we'd find a way to shove more to the north. But it does have a benefit across the region in many respects.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. And budget-wise, these costs, especially when we look at part of that 74 million for the works that are going to happen within the town of Newmarket, which you're saying are growth-related, correct? Those are DCable expenses, are they not?
Correct.
So those costs already have been claimed. This isn't a case where York Region's putting taxpayers' dollars to do this work. This money's there. We have the ability to pay for it. Because it kind of felt last time that number of 72 million was thrown up that it was all East Gwillimbury that was benefiting from that. And when I look at this right now, I don't see it that way. Yes, there is a benefit because the work is happening, but it seems that that benefit right now is going more to another municipality than us, when we're the ones that are more or less sitting back and waiting for this.
Just want to clear up a few questions.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Rabeau. I'm the director of our engineering construction program for water wastewater services. So in terms of the Upper York Sewage Solution Project, this is all debt financed, so it's DC recoverable. So
Good.
Right now, it's debt financed and is intended to be recovered through development charges in the future.
Great, thank you.
I guess there's one other point. In terms of the work that's happening in Newmarket, the twinning of the force main, that's really security and redundancy effort for the whole Upper York project. What's happening with the YDS extension is all the sewage up in East Gwillimbury is coming south. This is probably the most sensitive area of our system. It's a single force main out of that pumping station as well as down through Aurora. So twinning that in advance of any of the work that's going to be coming forward is critical for us in terms of system security and any future peak flows from storm events. So that is the primary need for that twinning. It does bring on a couple thousand people in capacity, very minimal in terms of any growth. Okay. So it's really about support as opposed to the growth effort.
Now, when you talk about, if I may, if you're talking about security and redundancy, is there any room within any of this infrastructure that's going in, and even any of the infrastructure we've put in here right now for the future of the UYSS to act as storage capacity if it's not in a redundant or security state?
Sorry, the YDSS force mains or the existing stuff on second concession?
No, the existing, or the new infrastructure that's going in to support the UYSS.
Yeah.
We were just told a little earlier there's some extra pipes sitting there that will come online when that system's hooked up. You're obviously putting more pipes in Newmarket to be able to support that system, and you're saying they've been put in place for security and redundancy. Is there any plan at any point to use them for storage capacity to permit any further development or any further?
No, hydraulically they're force mains. They're pushing sewage through it, so it's not a storage or gravity storage.
Nothing can be shut down or held in any way. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I don't understand pipes.
No
So
worries.
Okay, and I think one last question, Madam Mayor, and then I promise I'll be quiet. We got a budget, an idea of what the budget was for the second concession. We heard that it's under what it was tendered. What is the budget for the York-Durham sewage system? What was the original budget when you started, and where are we at today?
Madam Chair, I don't quite understand the question. The original budget for the York-Durham sewage system.
What did you tender? How much did it cost when you tendered the program? And I'm talking about YDSS. I'm not getting into UYSS.
Sorry, this is the YDSS extension, correct?
Yeah.
So I think we tendered at 120 million, and our original estimate was 150 million, so we are currently under budget. I think with extras, we're still going to come within 10 million of the original budget.
And just further, within that, the extras, do you mean what you've included in for pre-works for the UYSS?
Sorry, no, extra works meaning during the existing contracts, things like the discovery of the bridge abutment on Bradford Street.
Okay.
Some of those issues come up and change orders are issued through the contract, so they require additional funding, but
Okay.
they won't impact our, the overall budget.
Okay. So we've identified 74 million in here for UYDSS modifications that's been outlined, and you're showing on a map where those are. What about the modifications that were made to put the pipes in the ground for the UYSS? Is that in that budget, or is it a cost that's over and above that?
So there's two projects going on. They're completely separate. When we refer to the 110 or the $120 million budget at 110, that's all the existing works that's happening right now that will be commissioned later this year to bring on the 7,000 units in 2016 essentially and forward. The 74 million is completely separate to all that work. This is strictly related to the Upper York project, any preparatory design work, property acquisition, and the YDSS twinning, which you saw on the map in Brian's presentation, for the future. None of that's been put in the ground. No construction has happened on that infrastructure.
Okay. I'm asking about what has been put in the ground, especially when we look going from, let's say, the Newmarket pumping station all the way north to where it ends right now on the Queensville side road. I asked a question earlier if any infrastructure had been put in, or how many pipes had been put in.
Yep.
And I was told that I believe there was 2. No?
There's about 8 different pipes. There's different force main combinations. Actually, if you scroll back, you can see.
No, I didn't see it showing me the number of pipes. How many pipes have been put in to service the UYS at this point within the town of East Gwillimbury for the future?
All the infrastructure.
It's hard to explain. There's 4 force mains. Alongside the concession, there's 4 force mains. There's a gravity sewer, there's a water
Yeah.
main, there's a Sharon trunk sewer, there's a twin force mains in Holland. There's the twin force mains from Sept down to the Newmarket pumping station. There's a, which includes a water main, there's a green lane sewer that goes from the second pond. All those are 3 or 4 different projects within environmental services. We worked out the total prior to this, and it worked out to about $165 million worth of infrastructure, including 3 pumping stations and all those layers.
It's not being recorded, I can't hear him.
Okay, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out how much is the cost if it was just the York-Durham system, and then how much the cost is it to separate out what's been done for the UYSS, just so we understand.
So for clarity, I guess I understand kind of what's happened here.
I know I'm not clear, I apologize.
The infrastructure you see on the slide, which Claudio's just described to you in detail, that is going in currently. It will service the interim until the Upper York facility is built, and it will all be utilized in the future to service that facility. So it's got dual use
I
now
understand that.
and into the future.
Okay. Okay, I will leave it at that, Madam Mayor.
Perhaps we can have a offline pipes and sewer. It's a huge project. None of us are engineers. You folks are, and it's trying to get our head around questions out in the community when people ask us and try to get some simple answers to give them back, and it's sometimes just not simple. There's a lot of pipes and a lot of engineering involvement, so do appreciate how you've explained it all to us, and I think we do understand at a high level, and I would hope that if we can send off some other questions later on to try and clarify it in our minds. Not that we're wanting to build it, we're just wanting to be able to share with our community exactly what is happening with it and to understand the financing of it as we start to move forward. Thank you very much. You have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess for me it was a question of that there were that the YDSS had been split into several different contracts in order to maximize savings and in order to scope each project, and so that may be also where some of that confusion came in. My question relates, and it's perhaps for Mr. Rabot through you, Madam Mayor, relates to where the effluent ends up down at Lake Ontario at Duffin Creek. And if you could, if you have that information, if you could give me a sense of what the capacity is or what the remaining capacity at Duffin Creek would be, because if we're investing in this kind of infrastructure and we know that there's a delay in the Water Reclamation Center and the UYSS, is there capacity at Duffin Creek for us to perhaps expand the allocation that's allowed for the northern portion of our region in the interim?
Through you, Madam Mayor, so the capacity at the Duffin Creek plant is designed to take on all the flow through the existing servicing that's going in the ground, not related to the Upper York project. The issue with Duffin Creek, it's at the culminating point in our system where there's an issue is actually the Newmarket sewage pumping station and the Aurora sewage pumping station. That's where the capacity is limited to just the growth or the infrastructure that's being put in place right now. That's why the Upper York facility is required in the future to bring on the additional capacity and a direct link to it, as opposed to going through the York-Durham system down through the southern municipalities.
So there's a bit of a bottleneck at the existing pumping station.
Exactly.
So part of what you're doing is you're installing a diversion maintenance piece in order to be able to address the fact that you've got a lift station and a gravity issue at that station. What if you were to be able to address that bottleneck at the Newmarket pumping station? It's pie in the sky at this point, but what I'm trying to understand is what's needed in order to be able to clear that bottleneck. It's not a $600 million water reclamation center. It might be something of a lower magnitude.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the reality is that that's something that was pursued through the EA process, and it's not a matter of the sewage pumping stations. It's not just the stations themselves. There's force mains, there's piping. The only real solution would be to build a gravity sewer down through York region, which would probably be a plus $900 million effort. So the Upper York facility is one of the lower cost solutions as opposed to utilizing the Duffin plant and building a brand new sewer, which would have to be tunneled through the Oak Ridges Marine.
Thank you very much.
I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much. Very informative. We really appreciate you coming out. It helps us get the word out to the community, and that's the questions that we're getting asked now. So thank you. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, and we'll take any follow-up questions if required.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to receive, please?
Quick question, sorry.
Go ahead.
One project that wasn't mentioned, just curious what the status is. Maybe somebody might have an idea or direct the individual that's project manager to us, is Bathurst Street. I'm wondering what was happening there.
I do believe someone is here that could, and I guess to piggyback on Councillor Young's question, it seems like it was almost done, and then there seemed to be some more work taking place, and it looks to me on the weekend that it's almost finished, but is it really?
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. My name is Paul Acqua. I'm the Manager of Engineering in the Transportation Services Capital Delivery Branch. I just wanted to, I know we were here earlier in the year, spoke at fair length about the Bathurst Highway 11 intersection there. I am happy to report that we are, as far as the placement of the asphalt, those works have all been done. We had originally anticipated being completed the entire works, including the pavement marking, because the pavement marking is actually the only bit of work that's actually currently outstanding. That will actually be completed by the end of this week, we anticipate. The reason for the delay in that was there were some additional works that were added, namely primarily to make some adjustments to some of the access points to the businesses just north of Bathurst Street along Highway 11. So we had to, what we did at that point was we made some changes to the engineering, and then had to put the contractor on hold for that work. In fact, what we did was we spent the time early in the year to redesign the work, and then once the redesign was completed, then we remobilized the contractor, and that's why we're not currently done. But I am happy to report that the pavement marking work is the last bit of work that's left to be done, and we expect that will be done this week.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I have a motion to receive.
With thanks, I'll move it.
With thanks. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you being here.